Welcome everybody, my name is Lori Gagne and I'll be bringing you this week's episode of Relic News. Now I'll be featuring Steve Zuzulek from Ontario. Some of you may recognize him from the first season of The Curse of Oak Island.
My name is Steve Zuzulek. I'm a dad, I'm a husband, I live in Ontario, and I'm a very serious, I would say, hobbyist treasure hunter. I've been fortunate enough to be doing it for a few years and had the opportunity to do some pretty incredible things since I started.
What got him started in this hobby?
You know, for me it was really weird because I used to go to Florida on vacation, and I was like one of these typical guys that would go down and go fishing on the beach, and after a while, you know, I wasn't catching anything, so I, you know, was getting a little bored. And I've got a wife and 2 daughters, and they like to lay on the beach, but I'm too like antsy to just lay there for too long. So this guy's coming down the beach with a metal detector, so I run over to him and I'm like, I say the exact same thing that everybody asks you, hey, you find anything? Right? And the answer was incredible because this guy goes, yeah, he goes, actually, I'm a professional treasure hunter. And I laughed. And I'm like, yeah, right, as if those exist. Right? And the guy goes, no. He goes, I'm a professional treasure hunter. He was German. And I go, well, what does that mean? And he goes, well, for 8 or 9 months of the year, I travel around the world, you know, Romania, Bulgaria, the Caribbean, and I treasure hunt. And he goes, I take 4 months off and I live here in Florida, and I'll comb the beaches. He goes, but I don't really find a lot of stuff here. He goes, I find it mostly in Europe. And I go, well, what kind of stuff? And he goes, are you interested? And I go, yeah. And he goes, well, why don't you come over to my house tonight and I'll show you. So I like run back to the blanket and my wife's there and I tell her, and she goes like, that guy could kill you. You have no idea who that guy even is. Right? I'm like, no, I think he's okay. I kind of feeling okay. So, you know, I get his address and I go over there, and sure enough, I pull in the driveway and he's waiting by the front door for me, and opens up the door, and like my whole world exploded because I walked in the door and right away there was a formal dining room on the left, I remember, and he had a blanket over top of the table, and there was Viking swords, Viking everything on the table. He had like 3 or 4 full-out swords that he found. He had like these really crazy moon-shaped objects that they would shave themselves with, right? And then at the top of the table there were 17 gold rings, and I go, what are those? And he goes, those are Nazi rings. He goes, we were outside of a Nazi German camp that was liberated by the Americans, and what probably happened is when they ran out, they took all their clothes off and all their rings and threw them in one spot. And those 17 rings are in a size of a hula hoop of an area. So I'm like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, right? And there was a glass shelf in the corner just loaded with stuff. But I remember the middle shelf had these gold coins on it. And I've never seen gold coins like this. And they were like thick gold coins. And I go, what are those? And he goes, well, I was in an old settlement area of Bulgaria by the side of a mountain or a hill. And he goes, there was all stone there, and he started going up and down the stone with his detector because they were all like, I guess they were originally maybe homes or something like that, but like thousands of years old, right? So he was going up and down them, and he got a hit and started knocking out one of the stones, and literally the stone moved, and these gold coins started coming out like a slot machine. Right? If I wouldn't have seen it, I would never have believed it, right? So like, yeah, so that was my first experience with a treasure hunter. Blew me away. So I went home, right back to the condo, and I was like, with my wife, she goes, I walk in the door, and she's like, so? Like, was he a freak, or what was he? And I'm like, oh my God, I just met Indiana Jones.
How long after that did it take him to buy a metal detector?
Not long. So I literally came back, right, got on Kijiji, and then, so that was my first stroke of luck, and then my second stroke of luck was this. When I went on Kijiji, I there was a guy selling a Mine Lab Excalibur, and I was like, I don't want to spend too much money, but I don't know what I really want. And this guy I got a hold of said, yeah, I've been detecting for 35 years. And he goes, I'm selling my detector. And I said, okay, well, could I come and meet you? So I went and met him. His name was Richard. And it turned out that Richard was like the second most incredible person I'd ever met detecting. And the story about Richard is he was a fireman, and he was actually dying of cancer, and he was selling off all of his equipment. So at the time when I met him, he was home, and he was kind of on chemo and that type of thing, and he was like, hey, I'm not doing anything right now. So it was kind of like, if you want me to take you under my wing and kind of tell you everything that I know, I'm available. And I'm like, oh, yes, please. So for 6 months, I literally was with Richard at least 2 or 3 times a week, and he showed me every nuance, everything about detecting.
As soon as he started metal detecting, he started to find some really incredible finds.
Right away, I was river detecting, and I found a native bracelet from that was carbon dated to about 1640, which made it into American Digger magazine.
So what metal detector does he use today?
So I use a few of them. I use the Mine Lab CTX 3030, which I love, right? And I've got a couple Excaliburs. I've got a few different machines. One of the best things that ever happened to me while I was detecting is I was fortunate enough to meet Pete Anderson and Ryan Fazekis from Anderson Detector Shafts, and Ryan and I are like best friends. And that guy is probably one of the best detectorists anywhere.
How did Steve get started in diving?
He's a diver, right? So he said, hey, Steve, why don't you come in the water with me? A whole new world. I got my dive certificate, and he was like the president of the Fort Erie Underwater Recovery Unit, and this guy drift dives down the Niagara River above Niagara Falls. He pulled out clay bottles out of there and really incredible, cool stuff, right? But, I mean, he's drift dived down the Niagara hundreds of times. So I remember the first time he asked me to go, I'm like freaking, right? He goes, okay, go get your recertification, and then let's drift dive down Niagara. And I was like, freak. Like I was literally hanging on to his little fin on the first dive down, and then all of a sudden it was just mind-blowing. Like, you're going down there, and it's like, there's cannonballs down there, and there's there's actually still some old boat wrecks down there. And I'll tell you what, the difference between, this is the best way for me to put it, the difference between land detecting and detecting in the water is the difference between black and white and color TV. But as far as metal detecting is concerned, I guess it's, some of the gold rings that I've found are quite nice. I found, I was at an old beach with Ryan and Pete, and it was just, I was very fortunate that day, and I got a hit in the water, and I pulled out a gold ring, and they're like, hey, you got a gold ring. And I'm like, yeah, I think I hear more, right? So I went down, and another, maybe 20 minutes later, I pulled out another gold ring. Right, and then about another half an hour later, I pulled out another gold ring, and I pulled out 5 gold rings out of this one area. But the incredible thing that I pulled out that day, which is probably one of my finds that I liked the most, was this ring, and it was beautiful gold, and it said Mizpah on the outside of it.
What?
Which is an old.
What? I was really surprised because I have yet to hear somebody else that finding a piece that has Ms. Paw written on it.
Yeah.
I have a Miss Paw piece as well. I have a Miss Paw brooch. I've never seen, it says 1906 Ms. Paw on it.
It's from the Bible, and it's about the tower and the promise. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah, so my Miss Paw, the hallmarks on the back of it were 1882. I'm the person I've ever heard find another Miss Paw thing.
Me too. You're the first I heard about that too, so that's exciting.
So it's not so much the value, it's obviously a nice little valuable piece, but it's really more about the history of that. I love history.
What was Steve's most memorable experience? How about your most memorable experience?
I think Oak Island probably would be up there. That was a very memorable experience for me. I was fortunate enough to be invited by the people at Oak Island to go and participate on first season of Curse of Oak Island. So that was pretty memorable. That was a freaky place. That was a weird place to be.
Is there something that he would really love to find?
Oh man, what am I looking for? It's funny, when I was in the Caribbean, the guy had found I like finding gold. I love finding gold, and he recovered. This guy's incredible. So he's walking in the water, diving in the water, and I think it was just recently, over the last year, he pulled an Egyptian, a Middle Eastern chain with a gold pendant on it. It was 90 grams of gold, and the pendant was like huge with the diamond in it. Like something like that would be just incredible. Gold is good, but like the old historical stuff, like caches, like Civil War caches, where, as you know, like during the Civil War or the War of 1812, guys wouldn't trust the guys that they were fighting with, so they would take all their money, their jewelry and everything like that, and go bury it, because they didn't trust the guy in the tent that they were with, right? And that guy would get killed, and that thing would be forgotten about in the woods. So I guess it would be some type of a cache like that I would love to find. That would be just incredible. One great GoPro video is when I'm out in Cape Cod with my friend Leighton and John Molly. These guys, like I say, Cape Cod is incredible if you want to find rings on beaches, at old beaches, because you've got the old, Kennedy crowd and everybody from the 20s and 30s, 40s. That would go down to the beaches with all their big gold on, right? These old beaches, and they would just lose everything. So these guys, they find tons. Like I say, they find 100, 150 rings a year, and like big golf ball sized rings that you look at it, it's like, oh, that just makes me feel sick.
Hey Bob, why would you guys even? Oh my, that's incredible.
These are my rings from the summer.
Look at this.
Look at Bob's face.
Are you freaking kidding me? Just from the spring and summer.
That is
You better not fall in the water. You'll sink.
ridiculous.
I had it in my locked pocket, but I wanted to show
is
Steve
ridiculous.
that, because
That's beautiful.
I didn't want you to think that Leighton was the only one that gets rich.
There you go.
Hey, look at this. That one
That's
right there.
18 karat.
18
That's
karat.
Here's a few upcoming events. On February 27th, we have the first annual Penguin Dig. This is presented to you by Awesome Relics New England. There's also the Pig and Dig.
My real heart is for kids, for detecting, and getting families out to go detecting. Like, I don't know if you know this or not, but I created this event. How could we have an event where people could go metal detecting, and they could also come and have a little barbecue event there? So I have this event called Pig and Dig.
This is being presented by Steve Suzulik and Jack Summers. This will be held in Toronto on June 25th, 2016. Now also keep an eye out for the Foo Fest. This is coming up in March. Food Fest this year will be held on March 12th in South Carolina. Now we'll be featuring Leo Pollock from the Hoover Boys.
I'm Leo Pollock, and I'm one of the Hoover Boys.
This week on the Hoover Boys.
So where'd you find the buff nickel? Right there. And you got a signal here?
Yep.
What you got?
Engine.
Thank you.
He was hunting down the buff, but I caught them both.
You're full of it.
Yeah.
Eat it.
I think it's gonna be a good day already. It seems like.
Now look in your hole.
You can look in my hole. But it requires this.
Oh.
So, how did Leo get started in metal detecting?
Well, my stepdad bought me a detector when I was about 10 years old, and we bought it from a flea market, and we got home and tried it out, and it just didn't work. So he was trying to fix the coil and stuff like that, and we just never got it working, and it just went away. And then probably about 10 years later, 15 years later, I was like, I'm going to try this again. So I decided to get back into it, and then I bought a Harbor Freight detector to try to get back into it. I didn't want to spend a lot of money at first. And then I found my first mercury dime with it. And I didn't even know what a mercury dime was at that point. So I learned from there. And then I went to a local playground and found a set of gold earrings with that same detector. So you can find good stuff with those cheap detectors. And then I went and got rid of the earrings and bought a Fisher F2.
What metal detector does he use?
The Garrett AT Pro. But it's the Garrett AT Pro, I think, with the storm coil. I think that's what it is.
I asked him if he was a part of any clubs or groups.
Yes, the Maryland Free State Treasure Club, as Kurt, Bill, and Brad are also.
And this is where you met them, right?
Yes. Yep.
How long were you part of the club before you met Kurt?
Actually, I think we started almost around the same time. And I really didn't meet Kurt for actually a couple of months later. I was seeing him at the meetings and seeing the stuff that he was finding. And then Bill and him, I think, got to knowing each other. And then me and Bill have been friends since high school. So Bill brought me in on that, and then it just sparked from there with everybody.
Is there a find that has also eluded him?
Seated quarter.
I
can't find for anything.
So with you've never found a seated quarter. That's just like Brad.
Nope. Yep.
Where is my seated quarter? Because it doesn't seem to be in this county, state.
But I found the barber that Kurt can't find.
What is his favorite find? What would you say your favorite find has been?
I actually have it right here next to me. It's the Daughters of Confederacy. It's a Civil War Southern Cross of Honor, and I found it with the top piece also. It's not engraved with a name or anything, and I found it 10 inches down under a flat rock laying flat. So I guess somebody buried it, because it was the place that I went to was a farm at one point when my area first became Essex.
What is his most memorable hunt?
Trying to think. Probably the same one that I found the Cross of Honor, Southern Cross of Honor.
What's your oldest find?
At the same spot, I found, I can't say it's my oldest, but at the same spot I found an 1825 large cent, British large cent. And that was only 3 inches deep. So I don't know, and it had a hole in it, so somebody was wearing it as a necklace or pendant or something. But my oldest was 1805 Hibernia, from it's on the one video when we went to the Benson Hammond house.
Good Googa Mooga.
That's a dandy button.
That's a dandy and a half. Get out of here.
Yeah, look at that thing. It is so beefy.
Oh my gosh. Hi, little people. Please don't talk to me. It's perfect. A little pathetic, but B-Brad just came over. He's got shiny bingo.
Yep, I got shiny bingo.
Lincoln Leo found a Lincoln penny this time. Yeah, buddy.
I have no idea what it's called.
You have no idea what it's called, but it's old.
Yes. It's 18 something.
Yeah. That's pretty wild right there. I can see 18. I can't make out the last two digits, but I think that's a Hibernia. I can see King George somebody facing to the right. That's awesome, man. Yeah, Georgius. I don't know exactly what it is. We'll find out and show it to you right now.
It was for a historical society, so it was pretty neat. Yeah, so it was a 1805 Hibernia. It's awesome.
Has he ever had a find that was published?
Yes, actually, Bill and I have. We found I can't remember, I think it was in the Garrett Searcher. I'm pretty sure it was. I still have the magazine, I just don't know exactly where it is right at this point. But we found a high school ring. We went to a neighbor's house of his, and we were showing him the AT Pros. And Bill was scanning, and I was digging, and Bill's like, it's just a penny signal, go dig it right along the sidewalk. So I went and dig it, and I like, Bill, you better come here. It's a little bit more than a penny. And the homeowner was there, so he came over at the same time Bill did, and it wound up being the homeowner's sister's ring she lost back in like 1970s. So we gave it back to him to give to her.
What would you say, what is your favorite, what's your favorite video to date from the Hoover Boys?
Oh, jeez. Favorite? I like them. I like pretty much all of them. But my funniest was probably the Halloween one when I was in the banana suit in the park, in the city park.
It is October 31st, 2015.
And what they didn't show in there is a guy in spandex came up and was talking to me. And I took the banana suit off after that. It was...
Good job, buddy. That's
Peanut
awesome.
butter jelly top. Peanut butter.
You're a banana. You're not peanut butter or jelly.
Brian Griffin did it. Why can't I?
Good dig, man.
Thank you.
Now I asked Leo if there's anything else that he would like to add.
I just love the hobby. It's a great hobby. It's soothing. But then, I mean, some days it's stressful when you don't find anything, but you go out there and find something that you've never found before, and you just have that wonder of who held it or where it came from. Like some of the British coins, it's like, how did they get here? You just don't know. I mean, it could have been a troop. It could have been just a citizen, just a basic civilian citizen.
So don't forget to check out the Hoover Boys on YouTube. Now that wraps it up for this week's episode of Relic News. I can't wait to see you all next week.